welcome to She Shapes Tomorrow, the International Women's Day podcast. I'm Tania Gomez, your host for today, and I'm joined today by the lovely Carla Canning. Welcome, Carla. It's so lovely to see you.
Thanks, Tania. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation.
Me too. And for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting Carla before, Carla is the director of Connect, Lead, Achieve, a people and culture consultancy dedicated to building workplaces that are more human, values-led, and capable. With a background shaped by exceptional mentors, a deep love for community services, and a clear commitment to balancing kindness with courage, Carla helps organizations build cultures where people feel seen, safe, and connected. Her work strengthens leaders, teams, and the quality of care delivered across the sector. What an amazing business and an amazing introduction.
Sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it? Aren't I grateful to be able to work in a space like that?
Absolutely. Now, first, I wanted to jump into some moments that made who you are. And your leadership has been shaped by some amazing role models, formative professional experiences, and community leaders you work with every day. Can you tell me a little bit about how you've been surrounded by strong women throughout your life?
Tania, I could honestly fill an entire day talking about some of the incredible people that have helped to shape my life, that have influenced, I guess, the way that I work and the way that I live my life today. But maybe I'll start with one of my very early role models, my grandma. So grandma, she, is an incredible woman. She's still alive. She's, 94 these days. When grandma was younger, though, she was a nurse and she loved being a nurse. She loved helping people. And she spoke really fondly of her years when she got to practice as a nurse. But she also comes from a time where you weren't really allowed to continue working when you got married. And grandma never felt that she was able to continue to pursue her nursing after she'd got married and had her 6 kids. And, instead she filled her life with volunteering opportunities and she really lived a life of serving others. But if I'm honest, in conversations that I had with grandma, she was quite resentful, I think, about not being able to pursue what she wanted to do, in paid employment and be able to stay in the workforce in that same capacity. So over the years, I've had some incredible conversations with her. There's times when she's called me out where I've been, feeling a bit overwhelmed about juggling parenting and work and study and, all of the things that we do. If I have a moment where I'm maybe having a bit of a whinge about those things, she'll just say something really profound like, aren't you lucky that you've got the choice to be able to do all of those things? And that for me has been really important in terms of my gratitude for living in a time where really we do have those choices, that those things are available to us.
Yeah, I love that. That's really beautiful. I think it's true. Often we do take on a lot and we, do become overwhelmed with this balance between doing everything, but looking back and going, right, well, these are actually all choices that I've had, as opposed to thinking about them as chores or another thing on the list. They're all things that we're very, very lucky to be able to do, and not just the period of time we're in, but also being in such a progressive country like Australia. There's still countries in the world where women aren't allowed to do lots of the things that we take for granted.
So true. I actually volunteered in Laos 12 months ago, helping to teach English. And that was really apparent to me when I was over there, just that the opportunities that we have available in Australia far exceed what those young girls, young women, would have access to if they stay in Laos.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that you had a university professor who also taught you about boundaries and self-care. Can you tell us a little bit about how she shaped your you?
Sure. So that's Eileen. She is incredible. She's one of those people who, those people that just seem to be able to do it all and still have time for everybody and, are just kind and generous and supportive. And yeah, I just admire her so much. But this one day I actually was asking her about, how did she juggle it all? How did she seem to be able to do all of these things and with such grace? And she told me this story about how, every day she would find just a little bit of time for herself, and she'd sit down with a cup of tea and she'd make sure she was sitting by herself, and she'd just remind herself as she sipped her tea, this tea is for me. And it's always stuck with me because I think in our minds, we think about boundaries and balance in this whole idea that we've got to be really restrictive, that we've got to be really, that we've got to be able to kind of do it all, fit in the trip to the gym and book the holiday and have the massage and do all of those things. And I'm not saying don't do it, but I actually think it's in those little moments throughout our day that we actually really can look after ourselves. It doesn't have to be such a chore. It can just be something small. It can be a cup of tea or, a little moment of solitude that we can have by ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really nice as well. I find it hard. And again, that resentfulness sometimes creeps in when you feel like you're doing everything for somebody else, where if you can just take stock in those quiet moments. Something simple I do is walk the dog around the block, and it doesn't take me very long. And I probably tell myself it's for her more than it's for me. But if it gets me out the door, doing that 10-minute walk around the block really does help to shift your mind and, just focus on, try not to take my phone and just focus on the looking around outside and trying to focus on what's something new I haven't seen in this walk today. Oh, there's this new sign up there. I'll look at those clouds today, and try and just have a few mindful moments as opposed to thinking about what I've got to do next or what I've just done, or, those for me, it's for those forever to-do lists in my head, just trying to forget those to-do lists for a moment.
It's so true, Tanya. And I think too, it's actually in those moments you often find the clarity that you need as well. When you're in it all the time, sometimes, it's like you miss the forest for the trees, right? You kind of need a break from it. Your mind needs a moment just to settle so that you can solve those complex problems. It's often when I'm walking the dog or I'm, doing those other little things that, the solutions actually pop into my head without kind of focusing on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm known for having showers and solving problems in the shower and getting out of the shower. And my husband's like, what big problem did you solve in there today?
Me too. The best place to do your thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm usually alone in the shower as my children get older. I'm usually alone in the shower. I still have a 4-year-old who jumps in sometimes, but she doesn't like showering in the morning. So, my morning shower is a night. And before I had children, I used to have all my affirmations and mantras in my shower because it was somewhere I'd just laminate my goals and put them up in the shower. But my husband told me that was weird, so I took them down. My children used to make fun of me when I'd have them in there as well. So do that now, but it was somewhere that you can always focus. You have your own little time. You can always stand looking at the same things. Yeah. Yeah. You now work alongside community service leaders every day. What about their resilience and generosity continues to influence the leader you're becoming?
Mm. You mentioned at the front at the beginning of this conversation, the incredible work that I do get to do every day. And a lot of the reason why I enjoy that work so much is because of the amazing women, the amazing people that do work in this sector. A lot of the time, the organizations that I work alongside, they're facing the same challenges that we see. They're trying to make do or trying to do a lot with a little. And it takes a lot of compassion and courage, I think, to be able to do that. I think these women have really taught me that there's no reason for us to be unkind. That if we can approach the world in a way that is kind of like that half glass full approach, that we can achieve a lot together. I just love the empathy and compassion that these women seem to be able to muster in those times of difficulty, and their creativity to be able to overcome really tricky challenges and still show up for their teams and show up for their clients. And that is kind of the thing that motivates me to keep on showing up for them too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. When you look across all these different mentors and these moments, what has shaped you most as a woman and as a consultant and as a leader?
Yeah, I think, I talk about being compassionate and being courageous and being curious, and, they're values that are really close to my heart. And I think that's where that's come from is, these incredible women that have shaped my life. I think, I have at times had to be quite courageous to put myself out there. I have felt awkward and uncomfortable and exposed at lots of different times in my life, and I've got it wrong and all of that kind of stuff. And if it wasn't for these incredible women around me that I work alongside that have been in my corner, I probably wouldn't have been able to bounce back from some of those challenges that I've faced along the way as well. So I think that's what they've taught me is that, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fall over from time to time. And, that there will be a group of people that will be there to support you as you get back up and keep on going.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And about 5 years ago, you took a major leap of faith when you left your traditional career path and started your own consultancy. What was the moment that you realized you were ready to step out on your own and build, connect, lead, achieve?
Mm. So I'd been working in an exec role and had been doing a bit of consulting and coaching work just on the side. And my role was made redundant. So it was kind of this fork in a road moment, actually, where I was like, well, do I continue to do what I've been doing and go and get another exec role and, keep on keeping on? Or do I dive in here and make Connect Lead Achieve my sole focus? And I chose the latter, and it felt like a huge risk at the time. I felt like, how am I going to make sure I can still make the mortgage payments? And, how am I going to make sure that I, can have that security and that safety net, I suppose, around me? But I did feel like I was ready for a new challenge. So I think that was kind of the driving force for me. At the time, I also had some fairly significant caring responsibilities. Some loved ones in my life, in my personal life, were going through some things. So it also was an opportunity for me to help prioritize them and get a bit more balance, I suppose, around that work and life, conundrum that we all face.
Mm.
So that balance hasn't always been in place running a business, of course, as I know you, Tanya, will completely understand. But it has given me a bit of freedom to take on work that suits me, to increase and decrease as I've needed. And that's been kind of what I'm very grateful to have had that opportunity at a time in my personal life when I really needed it as well. So I guess that was the driving force behind it. I don't know that I ever felt ready to do it. It was just one of those things that I was like, well, let's give this a crack.
Yeah. Beautiful. And 5 years is a pretty big milestone. What has that meant to you personally and professionally to hit that 5 year mark?
It did feel like a pretty big deal to me, actually. I get to speak with lots of business owners, and I really love hearing their stories about how they started, what their journey's been like, what are their successes, what are their challenges. And it was funny, around the time that I was celebrating the 5th anniversary of Connect Lead Achieve, I had a coffee with another HR consultant and she'd been in business for maybe a little bit longer than me, but not a lot. And when she spoke about her journey into that, she was so planned. She was so prepared. She had everything organized and sorted, mapped out. She had templates and resources. She had it all sorted before she launched her business. And I sat there going, mine was kind of the opposite. I, reached that fork in the road, decided to do things differently. And I like the old saying goes, I was kind of building the plane as it was taking off. So when I think about the last 5 years, a lot of it sort of felt a little bit accidental. There's been, lots of ups, lots of downs, some successes, some challenges, and lots and lots and lots of lessons. But I really think it's helped me to grow, not just professionally, but personally as well. I think think I'm more patient now. I think doing this has taught me that, things take time, that you've got to, slow things down, and it's actually okay to not get to the finish line, as fast as what I was probably trying to push things in my world previously. I think I've become a lot more organized. I think I'm more authentic. I think, I feel like I'm really leaning into just being myself rather than being, this image of, the exec, this corporate person that I'd probably become in a lot of my previous roles. And I actually think one of the best outcomes from making this decision for me, or what I've learned over the last 5 years, is that I actually get more joy out of building everyone else up. So trying to help other people to be the star and the hero, whereas I was probably trying to be that a lot more in those exec roles, or, in that leadership journey that I had kind of pursued. So I think that's what I really love now, is that, yeah, I get to kind of help others shine, and it's not actually about me, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel a similar way, that when you're in a corporate environment, you very much have to prove yourself to other people, and probably yourself in your early career a little bit. And then at some point you just kind of go, actually, I don't need to prove anything to anybody anymore. I just need to, apart from your clients, right? You have to show up for your clients, and you have to do the job that you're being paid for, and their outcomes become your successes because your job is to help them. And so it's kind of this weird shift from I need to I need to prove to the world to I just need to be who I am.
Yeah, it's a pretty fabulous place to find yourself, isn't it? When you're starting to get to that point, I think, where, you do get to you can kind of take the pressure off yourself a little bit when you get to that point, because it's actually not about me.
Yeah.
It's about everyone else. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I went to a conference this year, and there was this lady, this beautiful lady who was much older than me, and she was talking about the two stages of life. That the first stage of life is very much about what does the world want from me, and having to prove to yourself that you are, X, Y, and Z. And then the second half of your life is all around what does my soul want for me, and really trying to do your soul's work. And I really resonated with that you start making decisions out of following your intuition as opposed to following what somebody else said success looks like by X age.
How beautiful. Gosh, I love that. I'm going to steal that, Tanya.
She was a beautiful lady. I'll send you some information on her. She yeah, left her big corporate career to run a not-for-profit and wanted to cure world hunger. Just a small thing. And left a very well-paid job for almost no pay to do this. And now she's retired from that, and she's in her, I would say, I don't want to say how old she is in case I get it completely wrong, but now she teaches corporate ladies to just have fun. And she said that she often dances naked under the moonlight. And I was like, that is something to aspire to, you know, in my older years, to just try and enjoying the amazing life you have as opposed to trying to push things and prove things.
Yeah, absolutely. To be in the moment by the sounds of it.
Yeah, yeah. So you've been quite candid about navigating self-doubt and letting go of perfectionism and learning to hold boundaries. Also, all at the same time as helping organizations become safer, stronger, and more connected. You said that one of your biggest challenges have been overcoming your inner critic. What does that journey looked like for you?
Mm. Well, my inner critic is now telling me, why did I disclose that to you, Tanya? Because now I have to be really honest and vulnerable, I suppose, about the inner workings of my brain. So I guess a little insight into how my brain works. I have always found that if someone else tells me I can't do something, I become particularly determined to prove them wrong. Um, But what I've also found is that when I have those same thoughts about myself, there's been times when I've almost become frozen with self-doubt. If in my mind, I think I can't do something or I'm not capable or I'm not worthy or whatever it might be, it almost stops me from taking any action. And there's been moments, that I probably could have done things differently, but that inner voice got in the way for me. And so I've been really lucky to have a strong network of people. We've spoken about some of those amazing people already. Um, and those women, those people in my life have challenged me. They've really helped me to be a bit real and to face up to myself and the limiting beliefs or the limiting behaviors that have been in my life. And so they've supported me through those times when it's felt too hard or almost impossible. And I've learned better ways, I think, to cope with that criticism that I can put on myself. So I wouldn't say that I've learned how to get rid of that voice. And there's still moments where it can feel a little bit intrusive. That's always at the most inconvenient times. But I think where I'm at now is that rather than trying to stop that voice from talking to me, I try and take the same approach that I would if someone else was telling me I couldn't do something. So, if I've got this conversation happening in my head that I can't do something, I try and just say to myself, if that's, if you know, I'll show you. I'll prove you wrong, kind of proving myself wrong in those moments, a bit like I would with anybody else. So I think that's where I'm at with that at the moment. I haven't learnt how to deal with it entirely, but that's where I've landed for now.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm certainly someone who does things to spite other people. It's definitely in my DNA. The whole reason I went to uni was because I sat in a staff meeting and I had a diploma at the time and not a degree. And someone in a meeting put their hand in my face and said, "You can't talk here. You don't have a degree." And I enrolled in university that day. I was like, really? To talk in that meeting, I need that? Done. I'm going to up you. And funnily enough, I saw her a couple of years later. I saw her at an event and I had just finished my master's degree and she was still at a degree level. And I did everything I can to drop it in conversation. Just prove that I had graduated and now I can earn that seat at a table in her eyes. But no, I do also love the reframe. For me, I've always reframed it when I've self-doubted myself. I've always looked for evidence of other people who can do this thing, who I think, not that I'm smarter than, but that like that, well, they can do it and so can I, as kind of examples. A really good example of this was I had a car accident when I was just learning to drive when I was on my L's, and it really scared me to the point where I just couldn't get into a car. I was really, really scared. And it wasn't even a big accident. It was, not a big deal. But it scared me enough to think that I could really hurt someone quite severely and that I had so much control. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I remember going to school and all the silly boys had just got their P's. And I remember thinking to myself, surely if they can do this, surely I can do this. Like he can't even put two words together. He can't even tie his shoes. He hasn't brushed his hair ever. Like, how can I not be able to do it if this is something that he can now do? Um, and I think that's kind of helped me. My competitiveness has kind of kicked in then and gone, well, sure, there's the roadmap. How did he do it? He did lessons. Who did he get lessons with? I'll go to them and then help myself kind of get a bit of a game plan of it to overcome that self-doubt. I don't know if that's
Love that.
or not. It sounds very
I love it. Oh, I'm okay for that. I think you kind of make those things work for yourself, right? Like most of our strengths, I think they've got the dark side and the light side. And so if you can lean into the things that actually make it the light side and give you the edge, I think that's not a bad thing, right?
yeah. I think it's whatever you have to do to get past all that inner those monkeys in the mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all that chatter. Um I wanted to ask you about the future of leadership in your space. So, like, when you think about what the future of leadership is, what do you hope that your work is contributing to that?
Oh, I found this question quite tricky, Tanya. Because like I said, I try to make sure that my work's not actually about me. And so thinking about leaving a legacy almost feels a bit self-indulgent if you think about it like that. But what I do hope is that my work helps organizations to become more desirable workplaces that people want to be a part of. I hope that in my small way that I can help organizations to be more compassionate and compliant. Like there's kind of this dichotomy, I suppose, that I work with, that we can have quality care and have people have fun and enjoyable work environments. I hope that I can help leaders to develop. We attract people to this sector who already have really big, kind hearts and they're already very values driven. So I hope that I can help those leaders to be a bit more strategic and future focused, because I think we need those clever ideas balanced with those kind hearts to make our sector more sustainable and successful for the long term. So I guess that's what I hope I contribute to. I certainly don't think I changed the game in that regard. The people out there doing that beautiful work are the ones changing the world. But I hope that, maybe through those interactions with me, it, gives them that bit of confidence or, courage to be able to do that a little bit differently or to do things just a little bit better.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, Give to Gain is the theme for International Women's Day 2026. What does Give to Gain mean to you professionally and personally?
Mm. I love this theme because I feel like it aligns to how I try to do life a little bit. This is going to sound like a really old reference, so please bear with me. But about 25 years ago, I read a book called Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there was a section in there that he talks about this abundance mindset and how important it is to have an abundance mindset over a scarcity mindset. And essentially, what that means is that there's enough for everyone, there's enough to go around. And that if we can be grateful for what we have, if we can build others up, and if we can, look for win-win solutions in our relationships, that we'll be able to live an abundant life. And there was something in that that kind of spoke to me. And so it's encouraged me to be more generous over the years. I think, I try to be generous with my time and my knowledge and my resources and, try and support people. And I usually find that that does come back in spades for me, that it does actually, have a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too. I think giving giving is the only way to receive, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Why do you think that small acts of generosity can have such a big impact on that connection and community piece?
Mm. Um, I think it's hard because I think at the moment everything around us is so fast paced. And so I think those moments, a bit like our cup of tea that we spoke about earlier, it's those moments that actually almost force us to slow down a little bit,
Mm.
because when we are with other people, we know that to strengthen those relationships and to really listen and to be present, we kind of do have to block out what's happening around us and slow that process down. So I think that's actually why those moments are so important for me. I also think that there's so much that we can learn from other people's experiences. So, it can help us to put things in perspective. It can help us to put others' needs ahead of our own. It can, help us to feel more grounded and more grateful, I suppose, for what's happening around us. So, I actually think that's what's so important about those moments of generosity.
Yeah, beautiful. When you look at the leader you are today, what would you tell a younger version of yourself who's still trying to figure it all out?
Is it okay to say that I'm still trying to figure it all
Yeah.
out? I think that's probably the message, though. I think it's actually okay not to have all the answers. I think it's okay not to have, the 5-year plan or maybe even the 1-year plan. I think it's okay to be open to opportunities and to work hard and do all of those things, and that you don't have to have, your whole life mapped out. I think if I'd have done that when I was earlier, I probably wouldn't have experienced a lot of the things that I have, because maybe I would have been too rigid and too focused on one particular outcome. Whereas by being open to different ideas and different experiences, it's actually allowed me to to go down some pathways that I probably wouldn't have ever imagined for myself.
Yeah, I love that. I'm finding that myself, that I am definitely someone who has many plans, plans on top of plans on top of plans. But I am flexible in changing those plans and adapting those plans as needed. But I do like having that North Star to aim towards and a goal. And if I don't have a goal, I feel completely aimless. And I do find, though, that as I'm getting older and maybe just more mature, and maybe a little bit more patient. I'm still a very impatient person, but a little bit more patient. I realized that actually there's a lot of things you just can't plan for, and you need to have time for those things that can't be planned for. A really good example of this is when I travel interstate for work. I used to like plan every second from when I got to the airport, bang, 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 until I got back on the plane. Where now I'm flying for a specific reason, and I just fly for that reason now. And then if there's other people that want to catch up and there's other things, I kind of let that unfold. And as a result, I have some really lovely impromptu visits with people. It means I might just text someone when I arrive and say, hey, are you around today? And if they're not, then that's okay. But one good example of this is after our National Sales Summit, the day after, a really good friend of mine had come from Perth, and we both had absolutely nothing to do that day. So we just hung out the whole day. We let the day unfolded. We probably could have organized it in advance and it would have been almost as nice, but just the relaxedness of, we'll just go there for lunch, or we'll just wander down here. Oh, let's just hang out there. And just letting things unfold sometimes is almost a luxury and a gift, especially in my world that is so rigid and programmed and planned in advance. And it's kind of makes me feel a little bit of a sense of freedom, not having a back-to-back meeting from the second I land to the second I arrive. And also means it's not as exhausting also.
I love that. I did a similar thing when I went to Adelaide for a conference a few weeks ago, where normally when I do that sort of stuff, you sort of fly in, you arrive as close to the conference as you can. So you go and then you jump on the first plane back and get out of there. But I actually flew down the morning before the conference, got a hire car and just went for a drive and just saw where the road took me. So it wasn't so much about even catching up with other people, but actually taking the time to just explore a little bit myself and to kind of invest in me at the same time. So that was kind of cool too. But it's hard, isn't it, to prioritize that time when you know that you've got that never-ending to-do list that you want to get back to.
Yeah, yes. What message do you want women listening to carry with them as they shape tomorrow in their communities and their workplaces?
I would like for women to be kinder to themselves and probably to be kinder to each other, because I think we can have such a strong impact when we support one another and we back each other and build each other up. And I think what that takes in order for us to do that really well is to invest in our relationships with other women, where we actually truly look to collaborate and not compete against them. I think that's really key. I think it relies on us kind of standing up for each other as well. So that can feel really uncomfortable and takes a bit of courage. But if we see that something's unfair, if we hear that something's just a bit off, to actually put ourselves out there and to talk about it, to have a conversation, to question it or challenge it. And I think too, everything that we've spoken about today comes back to that whole idea of being compassionate as well. And I think that that's a really powerful leadership strategy that can really help us to build better relationships and get better outcomes, no matter which way we look at it.
Yes. Finally, if someone wants to reach out to you to learn more about your work or just more about you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Sure. I use LinkedIn a bit. I try and share some helpful information on there. So that's probably a good place to start. But the Connect, Lead, Achieve website as well has got some helpful resources and tools, particularly for those responsible for HR or in leadership roles within the NDIS and community services sector.
Beautiful. That's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Carla. It's been awesome chatting with you, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks, Tania.